If you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until the day you die. I have repeated this truth countless times, and people have plastered it on t-shirts and coffee mugs, but I fear most do not truly grasp the profound physics behind these words. This is not some motivational platitude meant to inspire you. This is a mathematical warning, a stark reality check about the most dangerous trap ensnaring modern humanity: the employee trap. Most of you watching this are currently selling the only asset you can never reclaim: your time. You wake each morning, drive to a building, sit there for 8 or 10 grueling hours, and in exchange receive a mere certificate of value called a paycheck. You have normalized this existence. You believe this is simply how the world works. But in the eyes of the truly wealthy, those who have transcended the rat race, this behavior is nothing short of insanity. Why? Because time is a finite inventory. Imagine owning a store with exactly 24 items on your shelf each day. Once you sell those items, you cannot sell another soul regardless of demand or how desperately you toil. Your income hits a ceiling. Your life as an employee mirrors this prison perfectly. You may become a doctor, a lawyer, commanding $1,000 per hour, yet you remain merely a highly compensated laborer. The moment you stop working, the money stops flowing. The machine grinds to a halt. You begin dying financially. This is no accident. It is by cruel design. This mentality did not emerge from nowhere. It flows directly from the industrial conveyor belt we call our education system. During your school years, what were you truly being trained to do? To sit motionless for 8 hours, to memorize instructions without question, to raise your hand and beg permission to speak or even use the bathroom, to fear failure with your entire being. Above all, to complete tasks handed down by authority figures. These are not the skills of a visionary owner. These are the shackles of a compliant worker. The school system was forged in the Prussian era with one explicit purpose: manufacturing soldiers and factory workers for industrial machines. It was never designed to cultivate capitalists or entrepreneurs. It teaches you nothing about reading a balance sheet, identifying competitive advantages, leveraging debt strategically, or building systems that function without your constant presence. Instead, it instills one fundamental lesson: become a specialized cog in a machine owned and controlled by someone else. Then, when you graduate, they present you with the ultimate chain: the salary. Nassim Taleb wisely observed that the 3 most destructive addictions are heroin, processed carbohydrates, and a monthly salary. He was profoundly correct. A salary operates like a drug, a steady drip of morphine that gradually numbs your ambition and entrepreneurial fire. It creates a false sense of security and safety. You know precisely how much will arrive on the 15th of each month. This predictability feels comforting, even protective, but it systematically destroys your capacity to survive and thrive independently, like a wolf that has lost its hunting instincts. Consider the wolf in nature, uncertain when its next meal will arrive. It remains sharp, hungry, alert, studying its environment with fierce intensity. Now compare this to a domesticated dog in a golden cage, knowing exactly when its bowl will be filled. It becomes fat, lazy, dependent, its primal instincts atrophied beyond recognition. Most people are these caged dogs, having traded their precious freedom for a reliable bowl of food. Yet, here lies the fatal flaw in the cage. The owner can stop feeding you at any moment. We witness this in every economic recession. We see it when technology disrupts entire industries. The loyal employee who surrendered 30 years of their life to a single company suddenly finds themselves cast out at 55 with no assets, no systems, only a resume testifying to their obedience. This is the genuine tragedy of selling your time. It works beautifully until it catastrophically does not. Today, we must shatter this programming. We must uninstall the employee operating system that has been embedded in your consciousness since childhood. We must examine the brutal mathematics of servitude, expose why tax laws punish workers while rewarding owners, and demonstrate how to decouple your precious time from your income. You need not abandon your job tomorrow, that would be reckless. But you must abandon this employee mindset today. You must cease viewing yourself as a worker hired to perform tasks. Instead, begin viewing yourself as a business currently offering its services to a single customer. This distinction may sound subtle, but it is transformative. One path leads inexorably toward a lifetime of anxiety and a retirement of poverty. The other path opens toward genuine freedom and independence. The game is rigged, and most sense this truth instinctively. But they misunderstand the mechanism of the rigging. They blame corruption and dishonesty. They are wrong. The rigging operates through mathematics, cold, indifferent, inescapable mathematics. Examine the tax code of any developed nation and you will discover the government's true message. They desperately want you to become an investor, not a worker. How do I know this? Through tax rates. When you labor for a salary, you surrender the highest tax burden imaginable: income tax, payroll tax, social security tax. Before that money even touches your bank account, the government extracts 30 or 40% of your earnings. Now, observe my world. I generate my wealth through capital gains and dividends. I sit comfortably in a chair, allocate capital strategically, and the government taxes me at roughly half the rate imposed on working people. I have openly stated that my secretary pays a higher tax rate than I do. People grew furious when I confessed this, believing I was bragging. I was not bragging. I was simply revealing the rules of the game to those willing to listen. The system operates on a fundamental principle. If you sell your labor, you are penalized. If you risk your capital, you are subsidized. Why? Because the system requires capital to flourish. It needs factories, innovation, and growth. It has no shortage of people sitting obediently at desks, safe and compliant. If you wish to retain more of your hard-earned money, you must stop chasing salary and start pursuing equity. You must own pieces of businesses. This is non-negotiable. But there is a darker mechanism at work, one that silently crushes the working class: the inflation lag. When governments print excessive money, prices inevitably rise. This we understand. But here is the sinister secret. Prices do not rise uniformly for everyone simultaneously. Asset prices surge first. Stock markets boom. Real estate appreciates. The wealthy become richer instantaneously. Only afterward do consumer prices climb. Bread grows expensive. Gasoline costs more. And what rises last? Your wages. Economists call wages sticky. Your employer does not spontaneously grant raises when inflation jumps 8%. They wait, often a year or 2 or 3. By the time you receive that meager 3% increase, you have already lost 10% of your purchasing power. You are running a race where the finish line accelerates away from you faster than you can possibly run. As long as you sell your time, you perpetually lose the inflation equation. Owners win because they possess the assets appreciating in value. The final devastating truth emerges when we examine linear versus exponential growth. Selling time is linear mathematics. 1 hour equals 1 unit of compensation. 10 hours equals 10 units. To double your income, you must double your working hour. But there exists an absolute physical limit. You cannot work 25 hours daily. Your income carries a permanent ceiling. It is mathematically impossible to become genuinely wealthy by selling time. You will simply run out of hours to sell. Wealth, by contrast, is exponential. When I acquire a company, I need not be present for it to generate returns. Coca-Cola sells billions of cans daily, whether I leave my bed or not. Apple sells iPhones across every nation on earth while I play bridge. This is exponential growth. My income divorces itself from my effort and attaches instead to the system's efficiency that I own. Consider a brilliant physician. She is intelligent, accomplished, yet trapped in linear mathematics. The moment her hands stop moving, her income stops flowing. Compare this to someone who builds medical software. That entrepreneur operates in exponential territory. She can rest on a beach while her creation diagnoses patients and generates revenue. This is the fundamental shift you must make, from selling hours to owning outcomes. Without this transformation, you remain forever vulnerable, one serious health crisis away from financial ruin. Now we arrive at the painful question. If this system is mathematically constructed to defeat you, why do 99% of people continue participating? Why do brilliant individuals with Harvard and Yale degrees desperately claw their way into jobs that pay them for their time? The answer is neither logic nor reason. The answer is biology and psychology. Human beings are wired for patterns and safety. The unknown terrifies us at a primal level. When you receive a paycheck every 2 weeks like clockwork, your brain releases dopamine, that intoxicating chemical that screams, "You are safe, you have food, you need not hunt." Over years, this creates genuine dependency. You structure your entire existence around that bi-weekly drip. You purchase a house that demands that drip. You acquire a car that requires that drip. You become paralyzed by the silence between paychecks, terrified of that void. This is precisely how drug addiction operates. The dealer provides just enough to keep you returning, but never enough to liberate you. If I handed you $5 million today, you would resign tomorrow without hesitation. This proves you do not love your job, you are simply addicted to the paycheck's narcotic effect. The price of this addiction is your dreams. I have witnessed brilliant visionaries who possess the capacity to build empires, instead surrender themselves to prestigious law firms or investment banks. They became intoxicated by the lifestyle, and 2 decades later, they were merely exhausted employees with expensive habits and hollow achievements. They bartered their potential for false certainty. The corporate world compounds this psychological entrapment through a second insidious trap, the glorification of busyness. Ask colleagues how they are, and they respond with pride. "Oh, I am absolutely swamped. I am drowning in work." They wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor, a medal of achievement. In my world, this mentality is inverted. Busyness signals not success, but rather a catastrophic lack of focus and mental laziness. If you examine my calendar, you would see entire days completely empty space for thinking. If you reviewed Charlie Munger's schedule, you might believe he retired 40 years ago. We do not fill our days with frenetic activity. We think, we reflect. The employee mindset confuses activity with productivity. If you are perspiring, you must be producing value. The owner's mindset understands the opposite. Thinking generates value. If you spend your entire day chopping wood, you never develop the chainsaw. Most employees weaponize busyness as a shield, filling calendars with endless meetings and emails to avoid the genuine, terrifying work of reimagining their futures. They run frantically on a hamster wheel, perspiring, exhausted, making no forward progress whatsoever. You must stop celebrating how relentlessly you work and start obsessing over how intelligently you work. Corporations exploit yet another psychological vulnerability, the seduction of status and titles. They comprehend they cannot compensate you fairly economically. They would implode. So they compensate you in a different currency, status. They grant you a title, vice president, director, senior manager. These titles cost the corporation virtually nothing, yet they mean everything to your ego and identity. You display that title on LinkedIn. You distribute business cards to friends. It makes you feel important, significant, somebody. But here is the brutal, liberating truth. That title is not an asset. It is a liability. It is a gilded handcuff. I have witnessed accomplished individuals refuse to leave miserable, soul-crushing positions simply because they could not bear to surrender the title Vice President. They valued the crowd's applause more than their own financial liberation. When I closed my investment partnership in the 1960s, people deemed me insane. I was abandoning prestige. I was walking away from Wall Street, but I never cared about the external scorecard, only the internal one mattered. I recognized that building genuine wealth required stepping away from the spotlight to focus on compounding growth. You must develop the strength to appear like a nobody for a few years, so you can live like royalty for the remainder of your existence. You must be willing to relinquish the title, abandon the busy badge, and forsake the steady paycheck drip. This is frightening. Your mind will rebel. Your friends will question your sanity. But remember, the wolf ascending the hill hungers more intensely than the wolf already perched at the summit. The caged wolf, by contrast, feels no hunger at all. It merely awaits slaughter. How do we escape this cage? How do we reprogram our operating systems? We must install new code. We must learn the owner's operating system, the software that makes the wealthy exponentially richer. You need not possess genius-level intelligence to operate this system. You only require understanding of 3 fundamental principles. First, the art of equity. If you absorb nothing else, absorb this single truth. You will never accumulate genuine wealth by renting out your time. You must own a portion of a business. This is called equity. When I was younger, I recognized a critical distinction. If I worked for salary, my money died when I stopped working. But if I owned stock, that stock labored for me 24 hours daily, 7 days per week. Think of every dollar in your possession as a soldier. You can send that soldier to purchase a beer, it disappears forever, spent and gone. Or you can recruit that soldier into your army, you can invest it. Now that soldier ventures forth capturing additional dollars, which themselves capture even more dollars. Soon you command an army of thousands of soldiers working while you sleep. Most people execute their soldiers through frivolous spending on liabilities. The owner thinks differently. The owner eats last. The owner transforms every spare dollar into an instrument of freedom. You need not launch a business to own equity. The stock market represents the greatest wealth creation mechanism in human history because it permits you to acquire pieces of brilliant people's work. I did not build Coca-Cola. I purchased equity in it. Now, every time someone opens a can, I receive compensation. Second, leverage without permission. For 5,000 years, accumulating wealth required leverage, either human labor or capital. Using labor leverage meant hiring people, which is arduous, expensive, and complicated. Using capital leverage required borrowing money, which is perilous. If you miscalculate, bankruptcy awaits. But we inhabit a miraculous age. A third leverage form exists: zero marginal cost leverage, encompassing code and media. Write software once, and you can sell it infinitely. The replication cost approaches zero. Create a video, and millions can view it. It labors for you perpetually while you sleep, while you vacation. This is the new oil. You require no one's permission. You need no bank loan or boss. You simply need a computer and a functioning brain. If you continue selling time hour by hour, you battle a nuclear war with a stick. You must construct things replicable without your involvement. Third, thinking in systems. The final pillar of owner consciousness concerns how you perceive problems. An employee confronts a problem and thinks, I must solve this. An owner confronts the same problem and thinks, I must build a system that solves this. Examine McDonald's. Is their burger superior to alternatives? No, but their system is unmatched. They engineered a system so resilient that any teenager can operate it successfully. They eliminated the requirement for extraordinary talent. You must McDonaldize your existence. If you are a freelancer performing every task yourself, you do not possess a business, you possess a job with a terrible boss. You must document your processes. You must automate them. Eventually, you must delegate them. Your ultimate objective. Becoming unnecessary to your income stream's daily operations. If your business depends on you, it is not an asset. It is a liability. I own companies I have not visited in years. They transmit checks, not problems. That is a system. Cease attempting to be the cleverest person in the room. Cease striving to outwork everyone else. Begin constructing an army of dollars. Begin leveraging code and media. Begin constructing systems that function without your presence. You protest, "This sounds wonderful, Warren, but I possess bills to pay. I cannot simply resign tomorrow." You are correct. You require an exit strategy. You understand the trap. You comprehend the mathematics. Yet you remain imprisoned in the cage. How do you escape without starving? You do not incinerate the bridge while standing upon it. Most people attempt escaping employment by impulsively quitting in a rage. They shout at their supervisor and storm out. This is foolish. This is emotional. True capitalists are neither foolish nor emotional. We are calculated. You must maintain your employment. Your job is your first investor, supplying the cash flow financing your escape, but you must transform how you allocate your time away from work. Most employees squander their weekends recuperating from their weeks. They drink, they watch sports, they recharge their batteries merely to be exploited again on Monday. The owner spends weekends constructing their escape. You are the chief executive officer of your own life, with authority from Friday evening until Monday morning. That is your genuine job. During those hours, you construct your secondary business. You investigate stocks. You write code. You generate content. You continue this process until your part-time income exceeds your full-time expenses. This is called escape velocity. Once you achieve this threshold, your employer no longer owns you. You enter that office with transformed energy. You are not there because you must be. You are there because you select to be. And I assure you, nothing approaches the sensation of knowing you can depart at any moment. Yet, as you construct your escape, the system will attempt reeling you back in. Your supervisor will dangle a promotion, increased compensation, an expanded office, an elevated title. You must be merciless. You must decline. Promotions are typically traps. They demand increased mental energy. They consume more of your time. They tighten the golden handcuffs. They provide slightly more money specifically to prevent your liberation. I have witnessed accomplished men destroy their lives chasing the next corporate rung. They climb and climb only to discover the ladder leaned against the wrong wall. Do not fear being a mediocre employee if it permits you to become an exceptional owner. Furnish the company what they compensate you for. Dedicate your exceptional energy to yourself. Ultimately, we transcend discussions of money and mathematics. This concerns regret. Imagine yourself at 90 years old, seated in a rocking chair on your porch, your working years behind you. You contemplate your existence. What generates deeper regret? Not receiving that promotion to senior vice president, not acquiring that marginally luxurious automobile in your 30s, or acknowledging you invested 40 years constructing another person's dream while yours gathered dust? Will you lament bartering your finite earthly time for paychecks now vanished? Time is the singular asset you cannot repurchase. I possess billions of dollars. I cannot purchase yesterday. You possess today. You possess this very moment. You can continue vending your time, remaining on the conveyor belt, or you can choose differently. You can choose to think. You can choose to build. The cage door stands open. It has perpetually stood open. You merely require the courage to walk through it.